Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditative practice that enters into a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. We're going to jump right in this week. Just a pencil, if you have one, pen will work fine. Some paper to work on, sketchbook, sketch pad, piece of Bristol like I use here. We're going to follow a bit of a warming up, a sketching of a curve, finding figure in that lighter, fluttery way, and then bringing precision to it with our breath, with our awareness of the instrument in our hands and that interface to the paper, and see where it takes us in a creative field of an emerging alphabet, letters of flickering figures and flame on the page. Go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. So, with a pencil, something graphite, the reason I chose it is just it has a bit of a softer feel, and we may have learned to sketch at different times, and probably many people when they first started did kind of this little flick, try to make the line kind of like what I want it to look like scenario, and maybe you still do that, but I just remember art teachers telling me to just make the line. But I think that we can work a little between those two realms. And so what we'll look at today is kind of a gestural motion of making a curve or a line. So it can have a little bit of that sketchy softness to it, but maybe begin to drag it out into a more confident or precise stroke as we move around. Blending both methods as a way to bring the meditation inward to some of the technique and active drawing, and also have a little bit more open system. No specific subject for the meditation, a kind of movement and free exploration in this realm of line-ish curves or curvy lines. Maybe a little branching, kind of making some little letters here, marks, runes, something that we can work on from an individual starting point and explore that sketching out, sketching around. May work into larger shapes or keep them tight and small, and little moments of impossible meaning, but really just some curves. Using this warm-up just to start that moving of the hand, feeling out that kind of quick but layered stroke as our beginning. It may be quite tight, quite close, building up of line or curve, just to feel out a bit of a journey there on the page, or more bold and extensive, a little bit wilder at the ends, tighter at the beginning, whatever starts to suit you, and we have a lot of paper, a lot of room to play with that. Once we build up a collection of those, just as a little introduction, I think we'll come back if there's time and begin to use them as guides to find new curves, maybe even new shapes held within. That'll be our exploratory phase. Get the hand, a little wiggle, a little wobble, warmed up. Can move to a new sheet or continue there. Or start with a couple of establishing breaths. Maybe let the pen sit down or pencil sit, and just move the hands softly, kind of smoothly back and forth. Maybe a little bit rotation in the out direction. A little rotation preferencing the in direction. Just make sure those tissues are engaged, warmed up at the source and at the brain. And take a couple of deep breaths to ground and center. Feel that flow in and out. On the next inhalation, feel it all the way up to the top of the head through the crown. And out. And in one more establishing breath on the way in, feel it all the way down to the toes and the feet. And out when you're ready, connecting from the ground up through the top of the head and back down again, connecting out through the limbs to this paper in front of us. And when you're ready to re-engage the pencil or the pen, let it find a place of beginning on the page and start that light, sketching, layered, bit feathery motion. I think I'll explore a bit of kind of a branching, maybe running with and against the curve, something letter-like, but no letters in mind. Just a direction to start that motion of the wrist and the hand. See where the deviations at the start or end of the motion begin to suggest potential branching off points, maybe restarting points, the thickening of the curve, a bend or a slight wobble outwards from an errant stroke. Little gestures, maybe a little dance, curves forming into figures we might find, or some larger sweeps and arcs as you explore, keeping them close as I have, or giving broader space between each one, letting the eye and the hand play in that open field, letting the paper and the pencil bring a little bit of resistance and interaction into that playfulness, feeling at the tips of your fingers the weight and extension of the pencil, maybe even playing a little bit in that space to hold it far out or near, looking for something balanced, easy to hold, but not too firm. If I get closer, like a writing condition, I feel like grip a little tighter. Too far away and everything wobbles all over the place. Somewhere near the middle, near the balance point of the instrument, giving yourself some time in between strokes or figures to move it around a little, feel that out for yourself, bring that connection between the hand and the instrument into the mind so you can track it with awareness, where the pressure rolls and folds as you make each new stroke layered on top or branching out into a new direction, dynamically changing the micro interactions with the pen or pencil, letting the attention come to those nuanced pressures, starting with a bit of intention to the finger pressing into the pen or pencil, ending perhaps with a little release, letting go at that wobblier end of the sketchy stroke. And starting to use that attention to guide the speed of your movements, finding evenness, a softness or smoothness of movement. It may be fast or slow, but something with that same balance in the way the mark forms on the page, something you can feel, consistency, gives you the time and opens the space to notice that pressure at the end of the instrument, the pressure against the paper, pressure against the fingertips. And opening up your awareness to that speed you might want to draw with, the speed your hand might want to move with, the speed that our current state and disposition might bring to the table, and beginning to engage all of that with your breath in search of that smooth tempo. You can move from shape to shape, move from trajectory to trajectory, and maintain the consistency of presence, of action, but variability of expression. And with a few moments of quiet, just to spend time with those fingertips, with reading those sensations of awareness back into the body and the mind, before we move into a bit of breath exercising. So listen to the hand. Connection between us and the medium, the pencil or pen, the paper, the texture, the holding and interfacing, coming inside, becoming part of our expression. We continue that leaning into smoothness, finding of shape, finding of form, by leaning into an awareness of our breath, first an observation. Are you breathing? Are you holding it tight, shallow or deep? The noticing phase, the engagement in action, may often make us take a bit shallower breaths or slower breaths as our attention is outside somewhere. Which way do I draw? How does that look? Am I holding the pencil the best way? And from that noticing of the breath, we can bring ourselves into its space. First, just feeling the breath in through the nostrils, aligning it to a specific pathway through the nose if you can, or over the lips if you have to. And as you feel it, it may extend or lengthen. More sensation to capture the mind. Feeling the breath move in, letting it exit naturally, whatever it wants to do. A few more attentive breaths to that air flowing in over the threshold. And then as we get ready to shift that attention to the exhalation, perhaps find some more space of relaxation on the page. You should be getting probably fairly full, fairly dense. So just moving that pen and keeping the forms going. We'll use a change of mode, if you like, a change of pacing to now focus on the exhalation of the breath. I'm going to move in the spaces between and find more deliberate curves that track along the flowing feathery curves. Breathing in to find a place to start. Let the eyes drift or wander over the field, somewhere with an interesting space between things. On the next breath in, establishing a location for the pen or pencil. And on the exhalation, beginning to draw slowly along a curve. When the breath runs its course, just let it continue at whatever pace is natural to your state now, and keep that curve going until you find a place of ending. That slower, more precise curve, a change of pace. The breath in to establish, and the exhalation to mark space. The first few, location, exhalation, getting into the new mode of establishing a relationship of precision with gesture, using the eye as a gravitation around curves into spaces. It might be just little elbows or full enclosures, depending on where your breath and eyes guide you. Our practice focused on the exhalation as a starting place in to drawing around some space, drawing through, drawing along. Each time breathing in to establish and exhaling to begin that slower, smooth journey of a curve or line. Again, a few moments of quiet, really listen in to that exhalation. Perhaps listen in to the sound of the pen or pencil on the paper if that's available to you. And really be present with that exhalation, synchronizing along the edge of something, synchronizing the hand with the breath. Maybe make a little sound of the exhalation. And with that softer and smooth space established from those more engaged and mindful breaths, the more engaged and mindful curves, bringing gesture into form, can enter a time of exploring with the eye, exploring the connection mapped across space depending on your drawing, letting the breath, the tension and pressure on the fingertips in connection with the pen or pencil drift to the background as our attention comes forward into a space of creating, the many marks gathering, the gaps between them, the connections, something the eye can track and find pattern, the hand following along an edge through a space, branching when necessary. Bring that attention into what you see, how you can extend, connect, wrap, flow along the edges of soft curves. Bring intersection or enclosure. Maybe find some new and interesting shapes, an alphabet of discovery forming on the page. Other things you could bring in, this thickening or offsetting of an edge, perhaps taking an interesting one here or there and following it again, giving it more prominence, figure on the page, playing with its thickness, adding some shade or tone to fill and bring one thing forward from the many. Going into that space of the drawing you have made, starting from loose, playful gestures, following through that calm precision of edge, and bringing them together into form, figure, and ground. From time to time, reattending to that breath, just make sure it's there, not being held too tight, but it's extending from our practice and attention to it to just run at a nice, smooth rhythm, soft and supportive, not too much in the foreground, but not out of our attention. So we maintain a flow of oxygen, of replenishing, of exhalation that supports our mind, our fingers, and potential creative discovery there in the page. And just a couple of more minutes of kind of quiet, creative, and meditative drawing to see where this takes you. In that time spent exploring, refining, bringing practice and creativity together, we find a new set of letters, a new alphabet to explore, perhaps just scratches in the dirt, whatever it might be, a few moments of interest and clarity, a few places of soft suggestions. We can begin to bring it to a close, drawing a final curve or two, setting aside the pen or pencil, the instrument, taking a moment when you're ready to look at the hands, look at that space of interaction, a dimple here, callus there, maybe rub a little soothing into that space, bring the normal blood flow back, engage the fingertips, so active and full of nerves, Give the hands a bit of a squeeze, not too tight, just that same holding of the pen or pencil, and release to come to a relaxing place on the drawing, on your lap, in the air, wherever you find the hands in a nice relaxing position. Take a final round of deep breaths, inhaling, filling out the space, letting the hands float for a minute at the top of the breath, and then exhaling. One more if it feels right. Floating at the top. And opening your eyes to come back, move around a little after that time of engagement. Let out a breath and be ready for the rest of your day.